Hi, this is Mark Tibb speaking. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
All right, so according to Sky Sports, article in the description box, and of course Joe Saunders' head trainer in Mark Tibbs, who I did actually text after the fight, because I didn't see his response until I woke up a few hours later, which is pretty much just him saying thanks for the support and everything. They're saying that Joe Saunders has actually suffered eye socket damage, orbital bone break, if you like. Now, the words quit and the word karma seem to be thrown around with Billy Joe Saunders ever since Mark Tibbs didn't let it come out for round number 9 against Saul Canelo Alvarez. And it does seem to be the uppercut that caused the injury for Billy Joe Saunders. He couldn't see out of his lead eye. Mark Tibbs could feel some kind of indentation, which suggested that his eye socket, around the eye socket, was broken. So that's why Mark Tibbs didn't let him into round number 9. So, of course, he pulled him out of the fight. So, quit and karma. They're the words that seem to be thrown around a lot. And I want to give you some bullet points, and then I'm going to go back over the bullet points as well. Okay, just to clarify certain things for you. And I'm going to hold the very same energy for Billy Joe Saunders as I did with some other high-pro fights and fighters, such as I believe the referee was absolutely correct to not let Anthony Joshua continue when he fought Andy Ruiz Jr. the first time around. He got beat up in that fight. The referee was right. But of course, many people, they will call Anthony Joshua a quitter. Even people within boxing will call Anthony Joshua a quitter. Okay, but I believe the referee was right to stop Anthony Joshua. Much like I believe it was right that Mark Breland threw in the towel against Deontay Wilder. He had a bleed coming through the ear. Apparently he had a dent in his head. Again, he was getting beaten up and bounced around as well. So for me, it was right that Mark Breland threw in the towel. It was right that Dave Allen was pulled out of the David Price fight. Kell Brook was right to take a knee against Errol Spence Jr. Again, with a similar injury as Billy Joe Saunders, the orbital eye break. For me, Kell Brook was right to take a knee. I said it back then and I'll say it now. Much like Daniel Dubois, when he took a knee against Joe Joyce, he was right to take a knee. And I know some people, they'll say, but other fighters have had eye socket damage and broken and whatever else. No two injuries are ever really the same. There are always going to be little differences. Okay, that's what it's going to be. It's got very little to do with heart. Of course, that will come into it, of course. But no injury is ever the same. Dan Dubois' injury and Kell Brook's injury and Billy Joe Saunders' injury will not be exact replicas. They're just put into the same bracket. That's all. It could be above the eye, could be at the side of the eye, could be directly under the eye, maybe a shard of bone sticking out and scratching the eye. You don't know exactly what it is, but all injuries are going to be slightly different. So for me, same energy, Mark Tibbs was right to pull out Billy Joe Saunders for the Saul Canelo Alvarez fight. That uppercut seemed to do the most damage. Now, when you look at fighters, let's be real. Fighters are warriors. They're unique people. And they do the things that most of us can't do. And it's important that they fight another day, because at the end of the day, that's their breadline. That's how they earn money. That's how they pay their bills and feed their family. And I know some people will say, but Billy Joe Saunders, that was crazy kind of money. He earned millions and millions. Go out on your shield. How about you go out on your shield if you've got an orbital eye socket damage? How about you say that you get beat up the way Anthony Joshua done, or the way that Deontay Wilder done, that the towel shouldn't have come in, or the referee shouldn't have stopped the fight? How about you do that? Most people can't do that, right? But meaning that probably 99% of people who walk into a boxing gym with aspirations, thinking that they're this, that, and the other, probably 99% of them probably walk straight back out of the gym after the very first spar. If not, then certainly the first serious spar, when at some point they will get their ass handed to them. And it happens to everybody. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors with a lot of professional fighters, but they go through where they get beat up a lot. They will take knees in sparring. They will get knocked out in sparring, but they keep on going back and back and back. Most of us don't. And I can hold my hand up and say that on one occasion, it wasn't really a headshot that really hurt me. I was always okay with headshots. But I got caught with a body shot and the wind just left my body. I couldn't breathe. For the love for money, I couldn't breathe. I was trying to invent new ways for my body to try and get air into it. You know, I was trying to breathe through my arse, my ears, my eyes, whatever it may be. And it was a frightening experience. And I had quit in my mind. I don't mind telling you. Which is why I kind of like went over to do more karate than I did with boxing. It's far less brutal, right? But again, with boxing, I was frustrated as well because they kept getting me to do push-ups with the gloves on and not too much boxing training. But anyway, it is what it is. It hurt. It really, really hurt. Okay, and it was a very, very frightening experience. So most people will actually quit before they even get to a professional ranks, before they even have a proper fight, even an amateur fight or a white collar fight, whatever it may be. Now, boxers, they get punched in the face on a daily basis with a sparring and, of course, on fight night with smaller gloves. But they keep on going. So that makes them very, very unique compared to most human beings on the planet, does it not? Well, of course it does. So if a boxer, and let's use the word quit, in a fight, then it has to be something serious. Something that will probably make you and I think we're about to die. Okay, so for them to quit in a fight, especially a high profile fight, when they've gone through all the training and they've been beaten up in sparring, they've been hurt. They've seen other people around them hurt. They would have caused damage. So for them to use the word quit, well, you have to say that it must be pretty serious for them to do it. Especially when you've got like the adrenaline on fight night pumping around your body when you don't really feel the punches as much as maybe you would normally do. So for a fighter to quit, it has to be something pretty serious. Now, if you want to talk about ones that you could probably say, yeah, they were really quitters. I mean, look at that guy. I've forgotten his name. Was it Aguilera or something like that? The guy who fought Frank Sanchez last night. Don't tell me that he didn't quit. In my opinion, he quit. That shot on the back of the head that actually hit his shoulder and the palm of the glove just grazed the back of his head. The way that he had a delayed reaction and was rolling around theatrics was absolutely disgusting. That's quitting. Not what Billy Joe Saunders done, or Darren Dubois, or Kell Brook, or Deontay Wilder, or Anthony Joshua, or whatever it may be. That guy, in my opinion, is a legitimate quitter. What about the guy who walked out on F.A. Jagba? They were introduced for the fight. As soon as the bell went for round number one, he just turned around, stepped through the ropes and walked out. That's quitting. Alexander Flores, in my opinion, he dived against King Kong Luis Ortiz. For me, that's quitting. Malik Scott, who of course now is head trainer of Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, he took a dive when he fought Deontay Wilder. When he winked at him, put his gloves up and Wilder hit him on the gloves. Nothing even connected with his head, but he went down like he'd just been out on the deer range. For me, that's quitting in a fight. Now, the word quit, listen, it's thrown around way too often nowadays, much like the word karma is thrown around. But for the purpose of this video, we are going to use that word, of course. But with some kind of examples. Okay, so most of the names that I gave you in the beginning of this video were called quitters by especially other fighters. And, of course, boxing fans or maybe even haters, who knows. But it's clear to see the warrior's mentality of a fighter. So when they call other fighters quitters, it's going to hold more weight to it because obviously they understand what it's like to be in there. They understand what other fighters go through in training. They understand that they've been hurt in that themselves. But in truth, most fighters who call other fighters quitters, they probably have never been in the same situation as some fighters. How many fighters who have suffered orbital eye breaks and continued? Not many at all. So in reality, they may well believe that they would never quit themselves, but the reality is you don't know until it actually happens to you. So, okay, so in the beginning, I gave you the words karma. So, right, Dave Allen, he said that Anthony Joshua quit against Andy Ruiz Jr. Then what happened? Several weeks later, he gets pulled out of the fight, essentially quit, against David Price when he got pulled out on his stool. Now, again, I'm using the word quit. Even if your team pulls you out or throws a team in, essentially, that team quit. Did they not? That's what happened with Dave Allen. Is that karma? Deontay Wilder also said that Anthony Joshua quit. And then against Tyson Fury, it was like a mirror, was it not? With Anthony Joshua, everything went wrong after he knocked down Andy Ruiz Jr. in round number 3. And in the very same round, in round number 3, things went downhill for the rest of the fight, didn't they? And ultimately, the fight gets stopped in round number 7. Same thing happened with Wilder and Tyson Fury. Things went really downhill from, again, round 3 for Deontay Wilder. Again, he got bounced up and down the canvas much like Anthony Joshua did. And in round number 7, the towel came in. It's almost like a mirror. Is that karma? Because Deontay Wilder was mocking and saying how Anthony Joshua, he's a quitter and he shows that he's just a hype job. Is that karma? Potentially. Amir Khan, he said that Kell Brook quit against Errol Spence Jr. But then fast forward, what did Amir Khan do against Terence Crawford? He quit because he got hit in the balls. You could say that maybe Dillian Whyte, when he laughed at Deontay Wilder for getting beaten up so bad against Tyson Fury. What happens? He gets himself knocked out by Alexander Povetkin. Frank Warren, he was mocking Dillian Whyte over that Alexander Povetkin fight. And what happened? His guy, his golden ticket, takes a knee, quits against Joe Joyce in Daniel Dubois. So, on the very same subject, yes, Dillian Whyte, he did say Daniel Dubois quit. But again, that was aimed at Frank Warren. It wasn't aimed at Daniel Dubois so much. So that was just pretty much him giving karma back to Frank Warren. BJ Saunders, he said that Daniel Dubois quit. And that, he's got a gypsy heart and he would rather that his pulse stopped in a fight rather than quit in the ring. Then last night against Canelo Alvarez, pretty much the exact same injury happens to him as to what happened with Daniel Dubois. As I said, no two injuries are ever the same, but ultimately he gets pulled out of the fight for the same injury, does he not? But again, you could look at it and say, but BJ Saunders, he was pulled out of the fight. Daniel Dubois physically took a knee. So is it exactly the same? You probably have to say no. Again, Mark Tibbs, of course, is training Billy Joe Saunders, and he's now training Daniel Dubois. But he wasn't in the corner for Daniel Dubois when that happened against Joe Joyce, of course not. But again, just to clarify, Billy Joe Saunders, he did say that Kell Brook was right to take a knee when he took a knee against Errol Spence Jr. So last night, or the early hours of the morning, of course, I should say UK time, with it being, 4 o'clock, I think it was, very, very early. Chris Eubank Jr., he was laughing at Billy Joe Saunders. So are we now going to be seeing Chris Eubank Jr. at some point get pulled out of a fight due to injury, or is he going to quit in a fight because he was laughing at Billy Joe Saunders? There does seem to be a bit of karma and that thrown around. Tyson Fury, he called Anthony Joshua a quitter. Are we about to see him quit at some point one day or get pulled out of a fight? In fact, it nearly happened against Otto Wallin, didn't it? In any other kind of scenario, there's a very good chance that would have happened. That injury was so bad that arguably the fight should have stopped. Thankfully, it wasn't. Hey, listen, I'm a biased Brit. Of course, I support Tyson Fury as well. Same with Dillian and Anthony Joshua and that as well. But under normal circumstances, that very could have happened. He could have been pulled out of the fight. Then he would have been called a quitter. Are we about to see Tyson Fury quit against Anthony Joshua, the guy that he was mocking, get pulled out of the fight of Anthony Joshua? You don't know. I know a lot of Tyson Fury hardcores will say, no, that'll never happen. He's a gypsy warrior, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe if Tyson Fury gets an orbital bone break against Anthony Joshua, see if he continues. I doubt it. I really doubt it. But hey, at the end of the day, you never know. So the point of this is there karma flying around? I mean, potentially from one point of view. So I would advise boxers that if you are going to laugh and mock and jeer and call other fighter quitters and whatever else, just be careful, because there does seem to be a fair bit of karma not flying around. Not that I particularly believe in karma or anything, but to call a fighter a quitter, it's one thing for me to call a fighter quitter, it's one thing for you to call a fighter quitter, but it's something entirely different for other fighters to call other fighters quitters. And a lot of it is somewhat tongue-in-cheek due to rivalry, for sure, but ultimately you don't know until you're in that situation yourself. You don't know if you would quit yourself. You don't know if your team would throw in the towel or stop you on your stool. You don't know. For me, Mark Tibbs was absolutely correct about not letting Billy Joe Saunders come out for round number 9 against Saul Canelo Alvarez. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it all. Of course, you drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.